Thank you, first of all, for joining us today. My name is Jason Lopez. I'm a business development manager with Avantio, and I'm joined by Axel Persons from Operto. So we're very happy to be presenting this webinar here today. We're going to be talking about what travelers want in 2021 and how to optimize your rentals. So we have some really great travel trends to share with you guys, and some really great information that hopefully you can put into practice over the coming year, and hopefully take your business to the next level. Okay, so kicking this off here, just a brief agenda. So we're going to start things off with who we are, just a little bit about us here at Avantio. We're going to talk about communication. We're going to talk about embracing change. And then I'm going to kick it over to Axel at Operto, and he's going to share some more travel trends and traveler profiles with you. Pardon. Off to the right, you see a quote by Richard Branson, or Sir Richard Branson. I like quotes a lot, so I will use them throughout the webinar here today. The reason I love this quote is because it reminds me that we need to focus on the details, right? The little things. We really need to get those things right if we want to scale and grow. It doesn't just happen overnight. So I really love this quote: a big business starts small. All right, so on to a little bit about Avantio. So the first thing that you need to understand about Avantio is that it is an extremely powerful, award-winning all-in-one platform with three main components. Now, the first one of those components is our VRMS. Our VRMS is a dynamic cloud-based solution. It's designed to empower property managers and hosts to maximize their resources and to drive growth. It's a very versatile tool. It can scale with you as you grow. We have companies with thousands of properties, and we have companies with 20 properties. So there's no minimum number of properties to work with us. And again, it is extremely scalable as you grow. The second component to Avantio is our channel manager. Our channel manager is native, meaning it is fully integrated. So it's a fully integrated distribution tool within our platform, which means that you avoid the headaches of dealing with third-party companies. We connect to over 60 OTAs worldwide, so you can really reach people anywhere in the world. We also have a full team of connectivity specialists whose jobs are to guide our clients through the challenges and requirements of listing properties on multiple different platforms. And then the third component to Avantio is our web department. So we create best-in-class direct booking websites. They are designed to convert lookers into bookers, right? And with features and functionality entirely built and tailored for the needs of vacation rental guests. Now, these are not WordPress sites. They're completely custom. Websites built from the ground up with your brand and your look and feel. All right, so moving on to the next slide here. So I mentioned on the last slide that Avantio is an award-winning platform. And here we have a few of our most recent accolades, which we're extremely proud of. So on the left, we have the Shorty's Award for Best Property Management System for 2021. So that was just last week or the week before, I believe. So we're very proud of that. And then on the right, we have the VRMB Keystone Awards for Unprecedented Power. And then we have a quote on the bottom there by Terry White, one of the very best softwares I've ever seen in my life. Terry White, of course, very well respected and known thought leader in the vacation rental sector. These awards are definitely merited because we do offer a great solution, but ultimately we're able to offer such a great solution because of our incredibly talented team, right? Because of our people. All right, so moving on. Here you can see all of the beautiful faces on our team here. There are over 110 of us and growing every day. I am somewhere in the middle there. But so yeah, that's our team there. And a little bit about Avantio on the left-hand side there. We've managed over 1.2 million bookings. We are in 36 countries around the world. We offer 6 languages for customer care, including English, Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese, and German. And we've onboarded over 750 companies. We have a 5 out of 5 with Capterra, 4 out of 5 with Trustpilot, and 4.8 out of 5 with Google. Okay, so moving on now into the communication side of things. So communication is key, and I have another quote here on the bottom. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. This is a quote by Bernard Shaw, very famous Nobel Prize-winning Irish playwright, and I think that it is spot on, so I included it here. And we'll talk about some ways that we can avoid thinking that communication has taken place and actually making sure it has taken place. So what better way is there to make sure that communication has taken place than to automate it? So we have a solution built into our VRMS, which I'll speak to a little bit, but the point I'm really trying to drive home here is the automation piece, right? If we're able to automate the repetitive daily emails that get sent, booking confirmations, check-in instructions, that kind of thing. Number one, we can be sure that they're actually being done. So we're checking that box that Shaw warned us about on the last slide. But number two is we have a tremendous amount of time which can be used then to grow the business. So if you have something that you're currently using or something that you can use, then that's great. I would definitely encourage you to take full advantage of those tools. But if not, then you should definitely look into it. Now with Avantio Harmony, you can automate all of those repetitive emails, whether they're to guests, property owners, and you can do that with just a few clicks. So it can be booking confirmations, payment reminders, check-in instructions, or you can even ask for reviews once guests have checked out. And then of course we have a nice little dashboard that will show you how many hours you've saved, how many emails have been sent, that kind of thing, and it'll break it down for you by category. So again, the big takeaway here is leverage the tools that you have at your disposal and try to automate as much communication as possible. Okay, so moving on to the next slide here. We're going to continue with the topic of communication. And another tool which I would encourage you all to leverage is a centralized inbox where you can correspond with guests and service providers and property owners. Basically all of the people that would be involved with the booking, right? We do have a fantastic tool, our unified inbox, which you can see a screenshot on the screen right there, which allows you to do this. But again, if you have something in place already, or maybe you've been exploring the option, I would highly recommend having a tool like this at your disposal. Now, our unified inbox works with bookings from any channel, whether it's a portal, your website, or a manual booking. And again, it does allow you to correspond with all of the parties involved with a booking. Okay, so we're going to move on now to embracing change, and it's going to get a little bit data heavy here for a few slides, but there's some really valuable information in here that I think could really be game changers for some of you. So we're going to talk about some of the changing landscape in the industry and kind of what the trends are. So, and at the bottom, of course, I have a quote by Charles Darwin. It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. So Darwin, one of my favorite scientists, best known, of course, for his theory of evolution and Darwinism, the idea of natural selection. So I think that this quote is very fitting, considering everything that our industry has endured over the past year and change. So some ways that we can embrace change. I'm going to talk about direct bookings first. Direct bookings currently account for approximately 25% of all bookings. Now that's already a pretty significant number, but according to Focusrite, direct bookings are expected to grow to nearly 50% by 2022. I don't know about you all, but I'm not aware of many businesses that can afford to leave 25% on the table, much less 50%. So to the right, now to the right, we can see some of the benefits of direct bookings. Increased profits, so you avoid paying high commissions and fees to OTAs for you and the traveler. Direct bookings also allow you to be more competitive. Lower prices for guests ultimately means more bookings for you. They also allow you to offer a better customer experience. By cutting out the middleman, you can actually foster a more personal relationship, and you can offer just a better customer experience to your guests. If your guest has any special requests, they'll know that they can just contact you, and you can work directly with them to accommodate them. And then the final piece there is building brand loyalty. So by building your own brand and possibly a rewards program, you can encourage loyalty and repeat business, and ultimately build a long-term relationship with your guests. Okay, moving on here. So here we have on the left-hand side, we have some trends to watch. Now, most of this, actually on the left-hand side, I believe all of this data is from Vrbo. And maybe some of it may be from Airbnb. But according to their data, US travelers are 75% more likely to book a stay of at least 7 nights, and 33% less likely to book a 3-night stay this summer. Now, according to Airbnb, 50% of hosts already offer a weekly or monthly discount, and those who do tend to get more bookings for longer stays. So there's a really clear trend that we see here forming with longer stays. Excuse me, just a second here. A little sip of water. Now, also according to Airbnb, this varies a little bit by region, but in March, just last month, almost 1/3 of all bookings were made within 1 week of the travel date. So definitely consider allowing instant bookings if you do not already do so that you can capture some of that. Now, according to another survey conducted by Vrbo, 42% of baby boomers plan to travel more often this year, and 32% of them plan to spend more on travel in 2021. So there's definitely a traveler profile there that can be a nice niche depending on what type of travel you cater to. And then finally, overall, 65% of travelers plan on traveling more than they did pre-COVID. So that's a huge number, obviously. 54% say that they are more likely to take their bucket list trip, and 33% are willing to spend more than they would have pre-COVID. So we're looking at more travelers, higher spend, just all around, hopefully a big uptake in travel this year. Now on the right, we're talking about flexcations. Now flexcations are an emerging trend, travel trend where families vacation while they work and or go to school. This is a trend we're seeing now, but to be honest, I'm not so sure it's just a trend. This could very well become a norm as we move towards a more digitally connected world. Vrbo conducted a nationwide survey of families this year, and they found that 1 in 3 respondents said that they were able to fulfill their travel needs because they were working from home. So that's a third of people. 50% of those surveyed said that flexible school schedules provided more flexibility in vacationing, and 48% said that they can work from anywhere. 67% of travelers who took a flexcation said they would do it again. So again, that's a huge number. That's 2/3 of people that took a flexcation are willing to do it again, probably wanting to do it again. And again, they attribute a lot of the ability to take those flexcations to flexible school schedules and the ability to work from anywhere. Okay, moving on. So we talked about some travel trends and ways that you could potentially capture some of those bookings, but how about some ways to earn more revenue from those bookings? So Wi-Fi is the fourth most searched amenity this year, and hosts who add Wi-Fi earn 14% more than those who don't. Internet and Wi-Fi is the single most important accommodation amenity for American travelers. Wi-Fi is actually so important that 75% of travelers actually seek accommodations with Wi-Fi, compared to only 59% that seek accommodations with a TV. So people are wanting Wi-Fi and internet more than they actually want, television. Then we also come to cookware. So hosts who add cooking essentials earn 17% more compared to those who don't. Instant bookings. So hosts who add instant bookings will earn 12% more over the next year than those who do not. We talked about instant bookings a few slides ago and why those should be a consideration for you all. And then, of course, self-check-in. So this is a pretty obvious one with COVID and everything that we've all experienced over the past year. But hosts who add self-check-in will earn 13% more over the next year than those who do not. Okay, moving on here. We're going to talk a little bit about some self-check-in options. So Avantio, we know from the last slide and from the travel trends that travelers want to be able to self-check-in. They do not want to deal with lines. They want to minimize contact with strangers. And so this is a perfect solution. Now, as an added bonus, this is going to save property managers a tremendous amount of time. And of course, I have another quote here for you all. Time is what we want most, but what we use worst. And this is a quote by William Penn. William Penn founded the province of Pennsylvania, which of course later became the state of Pennsylvania. But so the average check-in takes about 30 minutes. So that's a huge amount of time that you can save for yourself or for whoever's handling that within the agency, simply by automating this process. But also it adds a layer of security, right? You can verify your guest's identity. You can have them electronically sign your rental agreement. And this ultimately can help mitigate the risks of a chargeback. And then finally, of course, you can offer a better guest experience. So by allowing your guests to check in online, they can have the entry code sent to them automatically by Operto. And overall, you offer a better guest experience. So I'll briefly walk you through our self-check-in process. Now, you can require all of these steps using Avantio or just some. That is up to you. But step one is the guest would scan their ID. They use their cell phone to take a photo of their ID front and back typically. Then they can go ahead and take a selfie so that you can verify that it is actually them. At that point, you can have them sign the guest agreement, the rental agreement rather, electronically. And then all of that information gets sent over to you, to the property manager through Avantio, so that you can review it and approve it. And at that point, all of the entry codes are sent automatically from Operto. So the beauty here is that once this is all done, your guest is checked in, they have their entry codes sent directly from Operto, and it's truly a seamless guest experience. So I think with that said, this is a perfect time to turn it over to Axel. He has some travel trends and some other exciting stuff to share with you all. So Axel, whenever you're ready, I think we'll need Anna to make you presenter.
All right. Are you able to just turn that over to be my presentation? Okay, there we go, perfect. All right, everyone, I'm just going to share my screen here real quick. Let's see. just a second. I'm gonna bring up the right screen here. Right one. All right, so yes, my name is Axel. I work with Operto Guest Technologies. We are based out of Vancouver in Canada. So we're on the opposite end of the continent compared to Jason down in Florida. I'm just gonna see if I can find the right window to share for you guys here.
I think I forgot to mention, if anybody has any questions, we are going to open it up at the end. But I believe we will have you all type your questions into the chat, and then Anna will read those off to us in case anybody has any questions. There he is.
Okay, that's me back. Sorry about that, guys. Having a little bit of tech issues here. Okay, now we are much better. My Mac is struggling to let me present here. You seeing my screen there, Jason? Yes, okay, perfect. All right, so let's jump in. Sorry about the delay there, guys. Just gonna quickly tell you who we are, and then I'm gonna tell you all about the travel trends that we've established to be the big deals of 2021, and then quickly go through just how you can prep your portfolio. Jason's done a great job of telling you how Avantio can help, and I'm gonna give a little bit of insight on how Operto can help as well. So just quickly, Operto, we are a property automation system, which basically means that we pick up where Avantio leaves off in the reservation cycle. So Avantio will deal with everything around the listing, the communication, the booking, the owners, financials, all that sort of stuff. But when it comes to the actual stay, that's kind of when we pick up. And we do a few things. We control various smart devices to make sure that your guests get into their accommodation properly, things like smart locks. And then we make your thermostat set to nice temperatures, your guests have a nice arrival, that sort of stuff. And we also present a guest portal for your guests where they can access information about their stay, things like that. So basically, we interact with the actual stay, whereas Avantio kind of does the booking side of things. So just to tell you briefly about the sort of smart device categories that we cover. We deal with smart locks, as I said, so we use keypad locks there for unique access codes for each guest. We control smart thermostats to make sure that we save energy off of the owner's bills, as well as making a nice, comfortable temperature for your guests. And then we connect to smart sensors, which lets us monitor for noise and occupancy to make sure that there's no unwanted parties or other violations happening in your units. So this together basically means that we have a automation powerhouse. As Jason just showed you, there's tons of cool automation happening in Avantio in terms of what sort of messaging you can set up and all the things that happen through Avantio. And then we pick up and make sure that the rest of that experience is automated as well, and that you can be hands-off and work on more important parts of your business. So having said that, let's look at just a quick little stat before I hop into the travel trends. On the automation front here, one of the very important or very interesting things that we've found through a bit of research, this is data from Transparent, one of the big analytics firms out there in our space. They say that the average property manager employs one person per every 10 properties under management. So that means that one person sitting in an office can handle up to 10 properties essentially on average. What we find with Operto and using other automation tools is that we can boost that up to 20 to 40 units per employee, which means that we now have way better use of our staff and just a much more scalable solution, especially if you're thinking about how to scale back up in terms of staff following the pandemic and everything happening this past year. So travel trends, that's why we're all here. Let's chat about what's happening in 2021. We're well into it already, and there's a big summer coming. So we're excited for this year. Some places like Florida is pretty much open up, ready to go. Some huge numbers coming out of there already. And in other places like here in Canada, things are still pretty shut down, but we're still expecting a big summer. So we're looking ahead, and everyone's planning of what to do. So we're going to look at some of the personas that we need to cater to this year and going forward. And this is all based on on the trends that we're seeing in the market and the data that's coming out of it, as well as just the intentions of the travelers that we're noticing throughout booking journeys. So hopping on to the first one here, we've got 4 trends that we've found. The first one is one that Airbnb kind of established and published first, and that was meaningful travel. Brian Chesky famously predicted that this was going to be the big trend for this year. That means a few different things, and we've sort of bunched a few things in under this category to make it a little easier to overview. So the main thing here in meaningful travel, people are going to be thinking about meeting family, meeting friends. All sorts of reunions are going to be a big deal this year. Unlike maybe previously when people haven't been thinking, you know, let's just go to New York and spend a weekend there. Now it's probably going to be multi-generational. People are going to want to see grandparents. I know I can't wait to see my grandparents. And, you know, just seeing friends, going maybe to places that aren't even that popular as tourist destinations, but hold other important reasons for people to meet up. The other thing here is, you know, less cities and landmarks. People are maybe not going to go and check out the Empire State Building in hordes anymore. People are going to be looking for authentic experiences rather than just ticking off things that they should see in the touristy area of wherever they're going. This also means that people may be going to places that aren't as you know, famously or as traditionally touristy. So drive-to destinations have always been popular, but even more now, especially as people are still worried about air travel. We've got road trips being a big trend as well. There's some things that kind of come out of this. So especially with big groups traveling, you know, we're going to need bigger properties. But the other thing with big groups traveling, or people traveling to places that aren't necessarily known for, you know, the attractions in the area, people are going to have a higher degree of expectation for your amenities. So they're going to look for as I said, larger properties, but there's going to be, you know, they're going to want pools, they're going to want, you know, lots of stuff to do maybe around the house rather than having to go out and find things in the area. The other thing, which is pretty obvious here, outdoor adventures. People are desperate to get outside and do it in droves, we bet. So you're going to see big trends here for things like, you know, the eco domes and glamping and all sorts of camp spots, RV rentals, all this sort of stuff. So anywhere you can serve outdoor areas or encourage people saying, you know, there's great hikes around, this is a good opportunity to speak to people who have been locked up for a year and a half. The final thing here that we're seeing is sustainable travel. So Amex did a survey of their traveler segment recently, and 68% of travelers say that they are trying to be more sustainable in their travel plans, which is interesting to note. So it's a big trend as we go forward with the year to look at ways that we can provide sustainable options to our guests. The next trend is booking what we missed. So that basically just means that we've been locked up for a year and a half, and we've been thinking about all the great places that we used to visit before that. So harking back to Jason's mention of direct bookings, this is a really great opportunity to make sure that people who you have had staying with you before come back and actually stay with you again. So, you know, leveraging your email list of guests who have stayed before, leveraging all relationships you've built up over the years, and making sure that you're taking those reservations direct, not through an OTA where you will be losing those 15% in commission. So it's a big deal. Obviously, yeah, rebooking is a favorite spots. And then the other thing too around this is that people are still health conscious. People are thinking about is it going to be COVID safe? You know, all these other things that have come up in our minds now. We're all pandemic experts. We're all epidemiologists for the past year. So people are going to go to places that they know and trust where they have been before. The next trend, which Jason also touched upon, is work from anywhere. So flexcations, as it's put in some situations. Work from home has just evolved this year. I mean, we're all working from wherever we can these days. Most people are working from home, popping into the office now and then potentially, but lots of people have transitioned even to a permanent work from home or work from anywhere essentially. There's been tons and tons of surveys on this lately, and you know the vast majority of the American population are saying that they prefer flexible hours. large percentages already working from home most of the time or working remotely. And it's really resulting in a new form of business travel where people aren't necessarily traveling to meet clients or anything, but they will be doing business while they're traveling, which means that they have higher expectations of their stays. There's also this trend of subscription models. So one of our clients, Mint House, for example, they now have this pass where you basically sign up for a monthly or yearly deal, and you have X number of days to stay within their properties, but you can do so anywhere in where they have properties, which all across the United States. So that's also very appropriate for this new breed of work from homers, work from anywhere people, digital nomads, who were definitely a thing before the pandemic, but way more now. There's lots of people who will not be going back to the office at all, and instead of sitting cooped up in one apartment somewhere, they might be traveling all over the States, staying a few weeks at a time. And these will typically be longer stays, as Jason mentioned as well. We'll also be seeing some trends of quarantining. So people coming in from a different country may have to quarantine for a couple of weeks, even as we open up this year, which is also a good opportunity to capture longer stays. The one thing to note for these guys is that we definitely need to be up to expectation for amenities. So we got to have super fast Wi-Fi. It's got to be reliable. We got to have the tech that they expect. So it's going to have to be easy for them to access their property, and we got to make sure that they have a desk. They got to have all the setups that they need. Probably some good coffee. So there's a big trend here, but just make sure that it's advertised that we're work friendly and ready to welcome these guests. The final trend that we've identified is revenge travel, which is a really broad trend and quite kind of a funny expression. It sounds a little scary, but it actually stems from in the 80s when China opened up following the Cultural Revolution. There was this concept of revenge spending, which is very similar to this. Tons of people were, taking the chance to finally spend money on things that they had been blocked from doing for years and years. And now we're seeing the same thing happening in travel, where we've been cooped up for a year and a half, and everyone is so excited to get out and just do some traveling again. So just to go on that same example of China, when China opened up after their strictest lockdown in Guangzhou, there was one of the stores there that had, I think it was an Hermes store, that had $2.7 million in sales in a single day. So there's some crazy numbers that are associated with the revenge spending. That was now, by the way, not after the Cultural Revolution, but also some crazy numbers coming out as we're coming out of this pandemic now for travel specifically. So specifically, huge demand. But the cool thing about the huge demand is that they're not only planning to travel more, catch up on travel they haven't done, they're also looking to spend more. So 40% of travelers say they are going to spend at least 20% more, which is a big difference when you add that all up. And people have a lot of savings to spend. I mean, everyone's been saving more money. Well, most people have been saving more money over the past year, not being able to eat out or go to restaurants or anything like that. But it's not just money either. It's things like saved up unused miles, etc., vacation days, all these things. It's not just money that plays in here. And one good thing is if someone's flying for free because they have all these miles on their credit card, then they might be able to spend more on accommodations. So that's an opportunity to offer packages, offer add-ons, experiences. That kind of goes back to the meaningful travel thing as well. So you want to make sure that there's authentic experiences offered within your accommodation that people will enjoy spending a little bit extra on. So things like culinary travel has turned into this own whole segment. So, being able to offer maybe food experiences for your guests, or any sort of upsells really that are available that you can offer your guests is going to help adding to your bottom line here. One other thing is Jason had mentioned sort of baby boomers, and actually something that we've seen as well is a similar trend, but on the other end of the spectrum. So younger people, millennials, under 34s, they were actually in a category that plans to spend a full 50% more on travel this year than they did last year. And there's obviously lots of things that come with this. So you know, they are gonna be more willing to spend on packages, you know, if it's romantic getaways or whatever. But we've also seen this trend of Instagrammability. So properties that are good for Instagram, people are going to be very happy to show off that they're traveling again. So beautiful spaces are going to be a big deal here, and people are willing to spend on it. So upgrading properties, putting in that little bit of extra flair and glamour might be a good time to do that right now. On that same topic, on the Instagrammability, not only is it a way to attract people, but you're also seeing this trend where 80% of respondents in that same survey that talks about the additional spending says that social media influences them in their travel decision. So 80% of people are now sitting there looking at Instagram saying, oh, this is where I want to go. And not only are they looking that way, but they are also then going to post once they have been there. So there's a big trend here on just in social media, and you're getting free content out of it when people are posting, but also being able to attract people that way. Also, if you're advertising on social media, you're driving them to your direct booking website rather than driving them through Airbnb. So save some money there. So those are kind of the personas and trends that we've established being the big ones for this year. There's some meta trends here. We kind of just want to look at how we can prepare the portfolio for these trends and obviously how Operto fits in. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I just want to quickly run through some of the tech options that you can use to get as much value as possible out of these trends as they emerge. And the other thing about that is, you know, just making it really easy for you to take advantage of these things, using things like automation, using tools that focus on ROI so that you're not spending a bunch of money on things that aren't going to pay back for you. So I'm going to show you the sort of quickest ways that we from Operto can help on these different trends. So the first one is our sort of most popular solution, which is Access. Access is where we control smart locks to make sure your guests get in really easily into your properties. So we use keypad locks. We have a guest portal that offers a mobile key option as well. So if your guests prefer to use their phone to get in, they can do that. It makes it super simple. It's fully integrated with Avantio, so it just syncs right through with your reservations in Avantio and sends out to your guests automatically. So now suddenly there's no key handovers, there's no messing with lock boxes, and you don't have to go around and program any smart locks manually or anything like that. Everything happens automatically from that integration. The other cool thing about having connected locks is that you also get live insights from them. So you will now know when your guests check in. That can be set up to send a welcome message right away, make sure everything's okay, make sure everyone's happy with their stay. You know, offer those upsells if you have them, if you want to offer a package or tickets to attractions nearby, or whatever it is that you think that people are going to want to buy here. This is a good chance to do so. So you'll know when people check in, you'll also know when people check out, and then your cleaners will be notified, your cleaners will come in, start turning over the units. And if cleaners have been turning over the units quicker, well, the next thing we can do then is offer an early check-in to the next guest. And with people more willing to spend, maybe we charge a little bit extra for that early check-in. People are trying to make the most of their time when they're away. So why not get them in 3 hours early and get an extra $50 for it? It's just an idea. So Access, some of the related trends here, just to cover off how this kind of all connects. So meaningful travel, on that front, we've got the group travel thing where, you know, you have kids, grandparents, all these people. If you have a large property, you might have 12 or you might have 20 people who all need access. So sharing keys, just not a good solution. Trying to get people to use phone apps, not a great solution. Access code, very simple. On the other hand, that's good for guests, but then on the flip side, you've got for yourself too. So especially if you're managing something that's remote, so I'm putting that under outdoor adventures. If you have remote properties, or even if they're not that remote, but you have to drive out and meet people, just having a self check-in, self-access option is going to make managing your portfolio a whole lot easier, especially when it's all automated. How's related work from anywhere? I kind of mentioned that before, but the expectation of tech is really high for people who do have the requirement to work from their units. So, you know, someone who's scheduled to check in at 3 p.m. might have scheduled a Zoom call for 3:30. And if they're having to wait until 4 for someone to show up and help them get into their unit, they're not going to be particularly happy. So there's a higher level of expectation on the tech from these people who are working from anywhere. You know, they're going to expect the Wi-Fi to work as soon as they walk in. They want to get on their Zoom call. But then you also have clients who, you know, clients of ours, property managers, who want to standardize the experience as well. So I mentioned Mint House, who have their subscription model. One of our other clients, Journey, they have their own app where the access works exactly the same way, no matter which property you're staying at across their entire portfolio of hundreds and hundreds of units, which is pretty cool. And you can book directly from the app. You can open your door. You can set your thermostats, all this from the app with the standardized experience, which is cool. On the revenge travel, the obvious one here, upsells, we kind of discussed that. So charge for an early check-in, late checkout, just that live information that you have from your devices will let you know whether that's possible or not. So that's a good way of getting a little bit more money out of each booking. Then managing demand. So as I mentioned, lots of our clients are just looking at ways in how they can make sure that they get back to managing the really high demand of this summer that's coming up, without potentially hiring back all the staff that they had pre-COVID, or even if they've acquired new homeowners, they have a larger portfolio now without having to hire new people. Again, going back to that status of 10 properties to a manager, it might be tough if you added 5 properties to hire a new person just to manage 5 properties. But if you can get automation to do it for you instead, then you're sort of saving yourself that headache. Just to quickly go through a little bit of data that we found recently as well. So in terms of self check-in specifically, I'm not going to spend too much time here. Just want to show you this traveler preference survey that we did in 2020, which was kind of a follow-up survey to a survey that Booking.com did in 2018. So this was just to see sort of how things changed over those 2 years. And there's actually new data here now that's you know, even further along these numbers. But as you can see here, our survey that went out a few months ago had 81% of guests liking a self check-in option, which was 63% in 2018. So it's really changing the guest preference here in terms of how they get in and interact with their stay. 30% of those respondents like check-in more at that point than they did 6 months earlier. So that was a big COVID push, which, as we know, has changed you know, the attitude to a lot of tech recently. Interestingly, all age groups overwhelmingly preferred self check-in. It wasn't something that was prevalent specifically amongst younger people. In fact, the strongest data was between ages 30 and 44. But it just goes to show that, you know, for the multi-generational travel, this is something that's still necessary. There's no one who's going to go and ask you for keys because they can't handle 4 digits access code. Everyone's kind of equipped to handle that. There was also one interesting trend that was that we saw that those who are more used to staying in vacation rentals are now asking for self check-in options in hotels. So it's actually driving a change across the accommodation industry, not just in the vacation rental side of things. Self check-in is here to stay, and it's something that we're all going to have to embrace one way or another. All right. So the second solution that we can use to help you guys be ready for these trends is energy. So energy, I mentioned before, is where we connect to a smart thermostat. What we do with that is basically we set the temperature based on a few different triggers. So we set the temperature based on the check-in time. So make sure that you have a nice, comfortable temperature when your guests arrive. So grandpa is coming in and your 5-year-old is coming in. They're all sweaty from the drive, and they're going to be arriving to a nice, cool place, which is nice. That's how we want it to be. 5-star arrival, good reviews. Then we want to make sure that we save some energy. So we're going to take that temperature and set it back at the time of the checkout. Remember, we know when they check out from them being able to do so. So we check out, and we get about 10% energy saving based on that checkout setback, making sure that we're not leaving the AC blasting after your guests leave. The way we can take that to the next level a little bit is by figuring out when your guests go to the beach for the day and they've left the AC blasting in the house, just so they can come back to a freezer when they come back and they're hot and sweaty after a day on the beach. So we can actually monitor occupancy within the units, which we do by monitoring CO2 levels in the air, which we all breathe out. When that hits a baseline level, meaning that the unit is now empty, we can set back the temperature and make sure that we're not now blasting the AC when your guests are out exploring for the day or hanging out on the beach. So with that setting, you actually get up to a 20 or 30% saving on energy bills, which is pretty significant, especially in summer. So how that relates to things, again, we've got that meaningful travel, the multi-generational. You don't want your grandpa showing up and it's going to be 100 degrees when they enter the unit. Not a good experience. Booking what we missed, that's just about creating memorable experiences. So as I mentioned, having, for example, an app, which we do offer, a white label guest portal, where you can set your temperature directly from your phone to make sure it's going to be comfortable at all times. It's a pretty cool experience, and just upping the chances of retaining those guests again for next year. Work from anywhere. Got to make sure you have comfortable workspaces. That includes temperature as well. So make sure that everyone's ready to go, and at check-in when they've just got in, still going to be comfortable as soon as they check in and hop on that Zoom call that they've scheduled. On the revenge travel front, what we're really looking at here is managing supply. So the biggest trend or issue on the supply side this year is people not having enough homeowners, not enough inventory. So we got to make sure that we can attract new homeowners, and saving energy is a huge one for homeowners. So making sure that we can actually give them a massive saving on their energy bills, it's a big speaking point to get owners to come on board with you. All right. Thirdly, we're almost at the end now. Third solution here is monitoring, which is where we control and measure noise and occupancy. So what we do is we have a sensor that picks up noise levels. It's not a microphone, you can't listen in or anything like that, but it will notify you if there is a party raging. And what we do is that we combine noise with occupancy that I just mentioned based on the CO2. And the cool thing about that is it just gives us more context. So if you have someone watching a movie or a dog barking, that might be a noise alert, but it might not be a problem. What we're really looking for here is issues around parties, over occupancies, unruly guests, or something that can affect your neighbors, something that's going to even maybe result in fines or unhappy owners. So by combining these two measurements, the noise and the occupancy, we get a graph that looks a little bit like this. So we have maybe a movie going on in the evening here, which has triggered a noise alert, but it's probably not that big a deal because the occupancy is nothing to worry about. But then Mr. Chad Thompson here, he went out for dinner and he met some friends and he brought them all back to the house. So at the 11, we're getting this alert here of high occupancy and high noise, which then is obviously an indication that it's time to intervene and make sure that nothing's going wrong in your units. So that's monitoring. Again, this kind of relates back to some of the same trends here that we talked about before. Meaningful travel. We're still really concerned about health and safety, which just means that the general feeling of keeping everyone feeling comfortable and safe. So that includes having a what feels like a safe area with no crazy parties happening or anything like that. The other cool thing about the sensor that we use is it also measures air quality. So there's another level of health and safety involved there, and we're measuring humidity. We're measuring that the air quality is actually safe and cool, good for human habitation, essentially. So booking what we missed, that also comes back here. Not having complaints from neighbors means that your guests are comfortable, but also means that your homeowners are going to stay on with you, and you're not going to be facing any issues or complaints from your neighborhood. Work from anywhere. So the air quality there is pretty cool. Not only is that a health and safety thing, but on the air quality side of things, having good air quality actually means a more productive workspace. So we strongly advise our clients to advertise in their listings that they're monitoring air quality for highest productivity levels, making sure that everyone's comfortable in their work environment. And the final thing here, revenge travel. So unfortunately, this means revenge parties are coming too. There's going to be a lot of people out there who have been pent up and cooped up in their houses, who can't wait to go out and throw a rave with their friends or whatever they do. We want to make sure that doesn't happen, that we don't get any ruined properties, and that we're watching to make sure that everything's going as it should. So that's a pretty obvious one. that's how our solution basically relates back to the trends that we have identified for this year. And that is pretty much it from me. Just going to quickly wrap up here for you. If you are interested in learning more about this, just send me an email. I'll be happy to take you through a live demo. It's Axel, AXEL at operto.com, or you can just go to our website, fill out a little demo form there. We'll show you everything that might work for you. Our team will then advise on what will actually help you. So as I said, we're really focused on ROI. We don't want to get you a bunch of unnecessary stuff that sets your light to a purple color at 3 a.m. in the morning. That's not what we're about. We want things that will give you value right away. And we can also provide hardware at a subsidized rate, which is great, or you can buy it from anywhere. We're totally fine either way, but we are going to recommend the right devices for you. Then you install and integrate the PMS. We work with Avantio and a bunch of other PMSs. We'll integrate that with a couple of clicks. And then our customer success team will help get you set up and optimize all of your devices for the best possible experience. We do have a promotion going on just based on this webinar specifically. If you do join now, we will get you 2 months for free on our pro plans. So drop me an email if you're interested in that, and we'll chat more about it. That's everything from me. Handing over for some Q&A, Jason.
Yeah, definitely. Good job. Thank you, Axel. I like the revenge. You and I spoke about this earlier, but the revenge travel. I think I mentioned to you that it's personally, I know that for me it's very real. I know a lot of people in my life, you know, that it's very real for as well. So I think that we're going to see that in a big way. You also mentioned that I'm down in South Florida. I don't think I mentioned that to the group, but I'm down in South Florida, and over spring break, we, you know, we had all of the spring breakers here, and our county ended up implementing an 8 p.m. curfew because the parties were a little bit too wild. So kind of to your point that those revenge parties are also coming back.
Yeah, we're seeing a whole lot more regulation in terms of noise regulation in lots of different areas, both that are self-imposed, where people don't want the government to have to step in, or local authorities, and those that are coming directly from city council and various regional bodies to say like, hey, we're going to have to keep the noise down if vacation rentals are going to stay in our neighborhood.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know if we have any questions. Let me take a look here. So just as a reminder to everyone, we will send the recording out to you all so that you can you know, rewatch this if you like, or share it. So if you do have any questions, I think we can go ahead and unmute your mic so that you can go ahead and ask. So just raise a hand if anybody has a question or comment. No questions?
Well, looks like we've covered everything then.
We have a question.
Anyone who has any?
Hi, everyone. My name is Anna. I've been in the chat. So if you guys have any further questions, please let me know. We do have a question here for Operto. That is, which lock brands do you guys support?
So we support a range of locks depending on your location and needs. So it comes down to mainly region and what type of properties you're running. But typically in the US, we recommend Yale locks. Those tend to be the most reliable and cost-effective in vacation rental settings. We also work with Salto, which is more for the hotel side of things, and a few other ones. There's certain, you know, condo scenarios, for example, where August locks are useful because they don't install on the outside of the door, so you don't see them. But primarily Yale locks is our sort of favorite lock supplier.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Axel. If you guys have more questions, let us know through the chat.
Yeah, and anyone who comes up with anything afterwards, feel free to email us, obviously. Yeah, pleasure seeing everyone on here.
Yeah, so if there are no more questions, I think that concludes the webinar, but thank you again to everyone for participating. We really appreciate you all taking the time out of your days here today. Thank you for Axel for joining me. Really great presentation. Appreciate it. Always a pleasure.
Good to see you, Jason. Pleasure seeing yours.
All right. Take care, everybody.
I wish all you a good day. Bye.